I'm so excited to have the opportunity to have a conversation with my great friend Jon Hage, who we've been pals for 25 years plus. John is one of the truly great entrepreneurs in the education space. He's built Charter Schools USA to a powerhouse with 75,000 students and amazing outcomes. But let's talk a little bit about your backstory. So you're a Green Beret.
Yeah, I
You were
guess,
you
it's like the Marines, right? Once you are, you always are. I'm not in it anymore, obviously, but yes, sir.
well, I learned a long time ago not to cross you.
Yeah, I am a Green Beret. Was honored to serve my country and gave me a lot of discipline. I wasn't so good at school early on, couldn't focus, but the special forces gave me that focus that a kid that was sort of hyper growing up needed. I saw it, I needed it, I jumped in it, did well at it, but yeah, the skills still apply today in school reform, quite frankly.
Well, we'll talk about that a bit more, but back to the background. How did you get connected to Governor Bush? So Governor Bush and you basically created the most important legislation for giving kids choice in the country and has been a blueprint for other states now. I mean, how did you even get connected to Governor Bush and what was that like in the early days?
Right. So I grew up in Florida. So I'm a native. My great grandfather, my father were fourth generation, my kids. So, we're rare in the sense that we've been there a long time. And Jeb moved there in, I think, the early 80s as a place that he felt was a great place to raise his family down in Miami. And we live in Fort Lauderdale. So we had a history there. But then when I went away, I was in the Special Forces training and then in college and staying in the reserves. And then I was in Washington, D.C. for a while. I worked at a think tank called the Heritage Foundation,
Right.
conservative think tank, really focused on policy ideas, reform concepts. And I worked in the foreign policy and defense area. So I wasn't even focused on these domestic ideas. I was focused on that. And I did my grad school at Georgetown. And while I was there, I was also able during his father's reelection race to do some volunteer work on his father's campaign. Worked on some free trade initiatives, some foreign policy initiatives. And then when he lost that race against Bill Clinton, which was historic, and that for his second term would have been President Bush's second term, Jeb was really preparing for a race in Florida. And people don't remember this, but Jeb and George Bush, W. Bush, were running at the same time. They both ran the same night, one in Florida, one in Texas. I think a lot of folks thought maybe George W. might not win that race
Right.
against then Ann Richards.
Right.
And they thought Jeb Bush,
Silver spoon in the mouth.
that's right. And they thought Jeb Bush might win it. In fact, his parents were at was going to be the celebration party.
Right.
Jeb lost in 94 by a point. W wins. There goes your history on which probably would be the next son to become president. And about a month later is when I got a call from Governor Bush, or actually Jeb Bush, before he was governor now, right? He just lost his first election, to come and talk to him about this idea of a foundation for his ideas called the Foundation for Florida's Principle.
Well, and I think from that, I mean, one thing that you got to appreciate about Governor Bush is he's not superficial in any way. I mean, he knows his stuff. He goes narrow and deep, and he expects the people work with him to even be more. So, what was it like to work?
It was intimidating. I'm just going to tell you, I look back at that. I was young, 29 years old. I was, my wife was still in grad school. We were able, not even living in the same place. I was in South Florida. She was in Maryland. We'd meet on a weekend. And I remember, I'm working for this guy first of all, he's large, right? He's tall. He's a big guy, 6'4" plus. I had a little car. I remember one time driving him to a speech that I had written for him to give. Now he'd run one time as governor. For governor. Everybody knew him in Miami. And on the way there, my air conditioning broke in the car and we were at a train track and the train's running, going slow. He gets out, he's sweating. He's like, what's wrong here? Can't you get a car with air conditioning?
Right.
And he gets out of the car to try to get some air. And everybody around is going, Viva la Bush, Viva. And he's like, and he's like in the middle of this thing. He gets back in the car all frustrated. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get fired here. Like, this is not going to turn out well. But I was an aide, right? I was writing speeches. I was writing policy ideas. I worked for a man who is, and still to this day, is just one of my heroes. He's brilliant. He's a real thinker. He tries to challenge the status quo. He's been given this sort of unfortunate image based on a presidential race much later, obviously, of not necessarily being vibrant and whatnot. And it's complete opposite of the Jeb Bush I've always known.
Right.
A revolutionary thinker, an ambitious guy, smart guy, but really one committed to really good ideas to help all people.
Yeah. And people, look at the Florida success today and they think, it just happened in the last couple of years. It really was the seeds that were planted during Governor Bush's first term. I mean, Florida schools were literally at the very bottom in the United States. And now in almost every category you look at, in the top 5.
That's right. Well, you can make judgments on national politics all you want, but governors still drive educational policy in this country. Education is not mentioned in our U.S. Constitution. It's not an obligation of the federal government to provide any education. It's only been done over the last 50 years through special acts of money that they even have any control. The real control for education in our country is in every state constitution, which means a governor is the CEO of the educational vision for their state. And as the second largest sector of an economy after healthcare, just right behind it, as you know, Michael, education being driven by governors. I think a lot of people don't understand that governor and the legislature, but really that governor sets the policy and the ideas and the challenges for how well they're going to be. Florida being 46th, now top 3 or 4 in the country, not just in K-12, but in higher ed, where you see the University of Florida just got ranked as the #1 state university in the country. That's a testament to leadership. And leadership in this country starts with a governor on education, even more so than anyone else.
So how did Charter Schools USA come about?
Well, never planned, right? These are concepts that I would like to say, and I had this grand vision. The truth was I was working for the right person at the right time with the right ideas, and I was attracted to that. I invested ideas into it. I contributed to it. I got a chance to write the white paper for the charter school legislation in Florida. I got a chance to help get it passed. I helped articulate that into the first school, and then I fell in love with it. I remember going to a school, an inner city school in Miami, and watching these kids come in and the uniforms were pressed, the moms, the dads, the grandparents, the caregivers coming in and saying, this school gave my child hope. It was their only chance to go out of a broken, failed, unsafe, low expectation school into this, what would have been otherwise unaffordable for them. Because remember, there was either traditional public school or private school. There were no other options. And those families, right? So many of us live in an affluent world where we go, our kids can just go to this private school if they don't have a good public. That's not the way it is for most families, even today. And so how it started basically is that I just fell in love with the idea. I was passionate about, my dad's a teacher, my mom's a teacher, I'm married to an educator. I'm the only non-educator. I'm a policy wonk by background, but I love ideas. But ultimately, how do you put the ideas into action? So I felt like the governor set up the concept, but then I really needed to sort of like move from the policy idea to the implementation, the execution. And then that's when I just said, let's start a little school for kids. And, let's just do it as a nonprofit and let's just kind of figure out and I literally did it on the side as a consulting business. And people came to me and said, we want more of that. Can you help us open it up? Can you run it? Before I knew it, I'm running the school and I'm getting investment capital. I'm changing the model and I'm creating something. And honestly, it's been a labor of love. It's hard work. It's not easy, but here we are 25 years later.
So these overnight successes take a hell of a long time.
Exactly.
So, and you had some pretty interesting investors in the early days. So you had our friend, Mr. Milken.
That's right. So you know this well, Michael. You've been my friend and a dear friend and an advisor and around this with me for so long. And I just appreciate you and GSV and Deborah and everybody that's been a part of the thinking group nationally, internationally on education reform. So I had investors, people that would come to me, and I had no idea what that even looked like. I'd never had a company. I'd never had investors. I accepted money. I did terms. I created all these things. I used it to build it, and I had influence, and I had great people around me. And I have nothing bad to ever say about these folks. They bet on me when no one else did. And today we're sitting here with something amazing. I bought them out maybe 15 years ago. There was a time when it's either their way or our way. We think about these things in life. We think about where do you want to go and what kind of company. And ultimately, this is the kind of company that I think has been best served by being an organization that is family run. I look across the table. I have my brothers in it. I have my son, others, and people that really has had a commitment to the long term. If I would have been a 3 or 4 or 5 year vision alone or a quarterly vision, it might not be the same as having an organization that was focused on the long term.
So, what are some of the lessons that what in terms of the success that you've had? But it's never a straight path. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned in running schools over the years?
First of all, I want to inspire more people to do this work. It's tough work. I get it. There's not enough supply for the demand. What do I mean by that? There's more hunger for school reform, opportunities to build new schools, create new enterprises, create better educational experiences for kids in this country than there are people to operate them. So we need more people willing to dive in and say, hey, I know it's hard work. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to build a school for these kids in this family down the street, this background. But what I tell people is don't be afraid. Like, this is meaningful work. You can look back over 25 years and go, you know what? I was put here for a purpose. God gave me so much time on this earth. And if I look and I say, I help tens of thousands kids, families have an opportunity for a healthier, happier life to make an impact. Some of these kids are going to go on and do amazing things to change the world for the future because we inspired them differently. We gave them hope. So first and foremost, start with purpose. Like, be a purpose-driven organization. It sounds cliche-ish, but our values, who we are, purpose, passion, integrity, and grit, those represent the core of who we are. Second, I would say have a mission that's worthy of inspiring people to join you. Our mission is clearly it's to be relentlessly committed to students' success in school, but in life. And then we say, what is it really about? What could someone ask you? They say, if you are better and different than the traditional schools out there, what are you bringing to the table? And I say, we're focused on these 4 things: strong minds, good hearts. We're going to create strong minds in every child to be critical thinkers, to be people who love learning, who know that they're going to have 5 or 10 or 15 jobs in their life, and that they're going to constantly have to be understanding as a critical thinker. But they also have to have people who give back in society. They cannot be selfish beings alone. They have to recognize that they have a greater good that they have to bring to the table.
Strong minds, kind hearts can't lose.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that is the focus. So that's our mission. That's our values. That's our promise to families. We don't always get it perfect, but we're relentless in our commitment to that.
So you just went through one of the most difficult times to ever run schools, COVID, right?
For sure.
One, how did you handle it? What did you do to make sure, kids and families were getting the education they were looking for, needed? And how did that shape the way that you're running your schools going forward? What kind of lessons did COVID teach you?
So no one knew it was going to happen, right? But we were better prepared, not because we knew it was going to happen, but we were agile, we were flexible, we had a mindset of student first. We had people who were committed to the student success over the adult success. So when you organize yourself, define a mission, and then run it where the student is the center point, right? That's what we're focused on. We're focused on that family having a customer service driven experience that they know they're going to get something better and different with us. Then when something big comes along like COVID, you're immediately able to flex quicker. So what did we do? We immediately talked to our teacher. So if a teacher wasn't willing to be focused differently, they might have said, hey, we're really not, this is not in our contract. We don't do it that way, right? We don't have those union mindsets. We have these teachers who say, we're putting the kid first. That's how they were hired. That's how they're paid. That's how they're focused. So all of a sudden the teacher says, hey, I'm willing to work from home with this. Give me that let me take my laptop home. Let me have interface, not just sending over some emails to fix and do a couple homework assignments. Let me actually have real FaceTime. Let me actually have real Zoom time to interface. And then we said, what can we do to be innovators? Because that's who we are. We're innovator mindset, right? We're flat. We're focused on results. We said, hey, let's bring some new ideas to the table. One night I woke up. I was in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. I looked over at my wife. She's the education expert. I said, what do you think here? We got to have a product, something in the middle that allows everybody hardware wise to actually talk to each other. I picked up the phone after she did some research to the head of the OWL company. Right. We took a business tool, modified it, used it in classrooms. When kids could come back separated, they were learning at the same time from different places in the school, from home, with a teacher in a classroom. And they look at their screen and they go, I feel like I'm in the classroom. We brought the classroom to the student rather than when the students could go to the classroom. And by doing that, we ended up getting all kinds of recognition. We were on NBC Nightly News, all kinds of Fox, you name it, because we were flexing faster and we were quicker to bring those kids back in safe environments as well.
How else have you used technology to improve the learner outcomes and to create consistency across your schools?
So personal learning, right? We always talk about it. Everybody says, oh, personal learning plans, but most people don't really do PLPs. It's so complicated, right? Not only do you have 20 to 25 kids in your class learning at different levels in different ways and different types, but you got the other 1,000 kids in that school that are learning in different ways and different types. And if we're really honest, most education still educates to the middle and even sometimes to the lower middle in that quadrant of performance, because that's where we can manage it. We manage it from there. But great leaders manage from the front. You look at the great leaders in the military, you look at the great leaders and CEOs, you look at the best coaches and teams. They lead from the front. They're the first to run on the field. They're the first to lead their troops in combat. So what we look at is how personal learning plans and designs can make from the front. So we integrate the teacher into that. So a good example would be a lot of our ed tech partners see us as collaborators. They don't see us as just a place to sell their product. I was just meeting recently with the CEO of a very large ed tech company, going through specific products and services that he's yet beta. I said, we'll be your beta. Put it in our schools. Let our teachers be the innovators with you. We'll have the best and newest ideas, which helps us, and you'll have a better product from it because my teachers can help you tweak it to when it then goes to market, it's in a better position. That's how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as an innovation lab for all public education and private schools around the country.
Oh, that's awesome. So of all the different things you're doing, what are you most excited about right now?
So I'm excited about our new vision that I just told you about. I think, in a world where people need hope, in a world where people are not sure what they're here for, where we're not sure if we agree on much, I want to bring some light to that. So I feel inspired. I feel an obligation to lead by example, to bring a certain amount of clarity, to moral clarity, quite frankly, to an organizational clarity, to a purpose clarity, to where we're going, what we're here for, why we're doing it. So first and foremost, I'm inspired by what I'd call our mission, values, promise I just pointed out. Secondly, I'm really inspired by the states out there are getting more and more open to real radical change, like ESAs and these ideas of education savings and charters. So I don't like to be labeled too far into just being this type of school. We want schools that are just designed to be better and different and constantly innovating quicker, and then put it whatever label. It can be a private school, it can be a public school, charter school, it can be a micro school. And so we are now expanding into types of schools that different labels, all still with the student as the central person that we're focused on. And lastly, I'm excited about our 25th anniversary. We're coming up. I know you're going to be there, Michael. I hope you'll be there. And I would love for you to say some things to our team. But we're going to celebrate not just 25 years that was hard work to get here, but set out that vision. I look at it as we're in the end of the first quarter of a 4-quarter game. This is a 100-year movement. I truly mean that. Doesn't mean we can accept 100 years till we get there, but it means that it just isn't going to change overnight. This is big stuff we're doing. We're changing the entire, ultimately, the face of how education works in the greatest country on the face of the earth.
Man, I got to get you elected. So let's talk about, just in closing, because you've been very generous with your time. I know you got a lot going on right now. But you talk about how important the governor is basically the leader and architect of the education system within their state. What governors impress you? Because I know you're very active.
Right. So I think Jeb was one of the best governors we've ever had because he set the stage strong and hard and with vision on education reform. But we had our current governor, Governor DeSantis, is an outstanding governor. He has been bold. He's been relentless on this. Bill Lee, the current governor of Tennessee, outstanding work on this in this area. Former Governor Scott out of Florida was a big vision, had a big support for what we do. Governor Sarah Huckabee right now out of Arkansas, she is doing great work on this area. I believe that the governors, if you look at really, and it's mostly a red state phenomena, but not necessarily. You have a purple state in Virginia. Glenn Youngkin really stepped out, and that was a defining issue, like you've pointed out. But he's done more than just said it's parent power. He's implemented real effective reforms in a bipartisan way with his legislature. I think great governors in this area have to work across the aisle. They bring a coalition of folks together. School choice is still today one of the few items that you've pointed out and I've pointed out that is not partisan. You have 75 to 80% of all Americans supporting it because it's student-centered. So we can't ever let it become partisan. I'm really reticent to do that, even though I tend to vote right of center, of course. From a general basis, I really see this as being something that left of center, middle, right of center can all be a part of. On one level, it's a social justice issue, all kids. On another issue, it's also a competitive environment issue. And I think it brings those economic and those social issues together to do what's good for communities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was extremely well said. Last comment for the entrepreneurs that are listening, they want to be an entrepreneur in education. What was one bit of advice you give them?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, like go meet those guys. They don't do that enough. It's surprising how few people call me up and go, "Hey, let's go, have a beer or let's talk about this over coffee."
That's different reasons, but no.
Yeah, probably right. But they should just seek out, go to these conferences, go to these places. There's so much available people that are experts ready to sort of help. We want more people doing this. I want more entrepreneurs in it. I want people to invest more in this world. And so first and foremost, seek them out. Number 2 is don't be afraid. Start a little school, be on a school board, maybe start on a charter board. Go. You can be a volunteer and get on a charter school board, learn about how it works. Look at the voucher system. Do something in your own backyard. If you have kids, you're going to become an education expert pretty quick when you become a kid. So you might as well start it before you have kids.
You're the best.
Thank you, guys.
Jon
Love
Hage.
you, brother. You're the best, Michael. Thank you.
Awesome.